Are prices gonna crash or soar after this presidential election? Stay tuned to find out. And hey there, my name's Lorraine. I'm with the Glover Agency in Fenton, Michigan, and I've got this crazy habit of selling real estate full-time. And not only do I sell real estate full-time, but I like to make videos to help keep my clients and my newfound YouTube friends like yourselves informed about what's happening in today's housing market. And recently I was looking into some facts and figures about what is the impact, because I've been hearing from my clients and also fellow realtors that they're feeling a little slowdown in the market this last month or so. So I decided to do a little bit of a deep dive so that we could try to determine what the impact is of a presidential election on the housing market. And basically, this time of year, we see about a 10% decline in sales because of the seasonal changes. Today is November 1st. It is right after Halloween. Thanksgiving is less than a month away, and Christmas is probably less. I don't even know how far away Christmas is, but it's coming up. And it gets a little bit colder in places like Michigan, so a lot of people decide to halt their home searches and or wait to put their house on the market until after January. So that always causes a slight bit of a decline in sales. However, in an election year, is it a bigger impact or is it the same? Well, historically speaking, home sales have always dipped a little bit larger in a presidential election year. So as I said, seasonally, they dip about 10%, but in a presidential election year like 2024, they can dip as much as 16%, which is a pretty big gap from month to month. But post-election, buckle your seatbelts, because home sales will definitely be increasing. Not only will there be people who were delayed in purchasing, who delayed their purchase because of the election, but there will also be a few more people that put their homes on the market at this time of year. And that's a really smart thing to do, because prices generally increase about 82%. And staying in the market to look for homes or putting your home on the market right after a presidential election would generally is a very smart thing to do. Why? Because people who are in the market and need a home, they don't just disappear when those sales lack. They're still out there. They're either just not finding what they want, or they aren't sure if now is the time to do it because of the election. Then we get pent-up demand, and all of those people will enter the market. And then, of course, we'll have the people who always enter the market at the beginning of the year in anticipation of the spring market coming. So even though those sales are delayed, there will still be a really large pent-up demand for housing. And that is really what's been kind of pushing our housing market recently. Now, historically, 82% of the time after a presidential election, the housing sales have increased. So what can you expect for the remainder of 2024 and 2025? Well, following historical trends, we expect to see an increase in home sales for the rest of 2024 and into 2025. As a matter of fact, this year home sales were projected to be 4.6 million, and next year home sales are projected to be 5.2 million. So the key takeaway is, whether you're a buyer or a seller, you can benefit from the market that develops around an election and also seasonal downturns. How is that? Well, as a buyer, you'll have less competition. Fewer people look for homes at this time of year. But I will say that the people who do look for homes are generally very serious. Same thing with sales. Because you have fewer homes that are going on the market, you have less competition, and you have some very serious buyers out there who need to secure housing. And if you're selling your home, it's great news, because even though there are more homes on the market than there were last year, it's still nowhere near meeting the demand that is out there for housing. giving sellers a unique opportunity to make their home stand out and get more attention. So I wonder, what do you think is driving this housing shortage? Because I don't really remember hearing much about this until right after the pandemic, when it seemed like everybody needed to move right away. Well, for one thing, we've had a long-term underproduction of homes. I've noticed that here in Michigan. When we first moved into the Grand Blanc area, it seemed like every other week another development was going up. Pulte was building up here as well as many other builders. Since the 2008 crash, aside from Allen Edwin, and what they tend to do is go into neighborhoods that were never completed and pick up little homes, pick up parcels of land there and build homes on them, there's not been a ton of new building going on. Why is that? Because you know what? From 2008 until 2020, we really didn't have much building going on. And even in 2022, the construction couldn't keep up with the formation of new families that were coming into the market. We've also got rising costs, and there's been many pandemic-related disruptions. And that put a limit on how much construction has been going on. Now, this is regional. There definitely are going to be some differences between, say, Michigan and Tennessee. I recently was visiting my aunt and uncle in Tennessee, and they've got building going on everywhere, but they have seen a huge influx of people moving into Tennessee from all over, many from California. So we have apartment buildings going up down there and homes being built everywhere, where that's really not the case here in Michigan. So you are going to see differences regionally in this. That just means that your housing prices are going up because your supply isn't meeting the demand. And in fact, the supply doesn't even meet the job growth, which is driving prices up. Good news for sellers again, bad news for buyers. Just to give you an example of how big this housing deficit is, there is currently a shortfall of about 3.3 million homes. In the future, there's going to be a need of 18 million new homes over the next 10 years. So that's like 6 times the demand over a 10-year period. So as you can see, that the demand and supply are not meeting now, and unless we start really getting some homes built, we're not going to have them in the future either. And of course, this is creating a really great situation for selling. The current market shortage means increased attention and, of course, increased prices. So don't miss the fact that this tight market really favors sellers and gives them more advantages when it comes to selling their homes. Of course, you're going to want to reach out to your local real estate expert to get some information about what's happening in your current market. A lot of people have been saying, oh, I think the market is going to crash. I can tell you in my area, I don't see that happening. Prior to the 2008 crash, we sold a home. And at that time, there were over 10 months of homes on the market. Our homes days on the market were forecasted to be about 60. And that was just about the right amount. We sold the home within 60 days. Today's market has about 2 months of inventory. And your days on the market are running between 30 and 45, or half the amount that they were back in 2008. So based on that and the expected shortfall of homes, I don't really see this market crashing because there's still a lot of demand for it. As an example, I had a buyer who's been looking for a home in this market, and we found a gorgeous home. And there were 2 offers on the home. We ended up winning the bid. However, when my buyer had their inspection, the home that they had paid $22,000 over asking needed to have a completely new roof. The chimney was crumbling, and we were probably looking at about between $30,000 and $35,000 worth of repairs. Now, for my buyers, that was too much. They were not going to pay $22,000 over asking and then have to put a new home on. So they tried to negotiate with the sellers. The sellers wouldn't negotiate with them, and basically they turned to another buyer who apparently felt that that was okay. So that's the type of things that some of our buyers are dealing with. They have to make the choice between, having a sound home or having a home at all. So the bottom line is that even though we have way more homes available than last year, sellers are still in a very strong position to get their homes sold and to increase competition for those homes. And I'll tell you, there's never fewer homes available than probably right now in Michigan with the holidays coming and the election looming. So it's a great time to list. So reach out to your local expert, learn about the nuances in your market. But I don't think that we're going to see a crash anytime soon. I think you're going to see demand stay steady for homes. I think there'll be a bit of a price increase coming in the spring. Who knows if the Fed will raise or drop rates? That's another part, I think, of the shortage, is that there are so many people sitting in homes with 2.5%, 3% mortgages. And if they go out to buy, they're going to be paying more for the home and more on the interest rate than they have before. But keep in mind that these interest rates are still about average for interest rates. They aren't particularly high. I mean, I can tell you about 12%, 18% interest rates back in the late 70s and early 80s when I bought my first home. And housing prices were considerably less then, but it was still a tough pill to swallow. But interest rates always go up and down. We always say, marry the house, date the rate. And that's why. Have a great day.